Welcome everyone to episode 143 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pentellaresco. I write stuff and podcast too. I was a little surprised. I was looking at my archives and I realized I'd forgotten one more interview. So this is my bad. I just started recording all these right before my surgery. So just try to do them all. James Kirouac's my guest. Now James does he uses past lives to help people heal people in today's days with hypnosis. It's an interesting practice. Like I said, I'm not sure where I personally believe in terms of past lives. I tend to think you're only here once. But the interesting thing is, it's helped people, and we had a really cool talk about healing and where things are going, and I learned something about myself too after we finished talking off the air, and I thank James very much for that. So without further ado, here's James, and we talk about his story, and it's a really cool one. So I hope you guys take a listen to it. I'm going to turn this on, so anything incriminating you want to say, make it good.
Awesome.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah, so how you doing, man?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Life is good when you're looking for it to be good.
Yes. By the way, I feel horribly underdressed, ladies and gentlemen, because he looks like the most civilized dude in the world right here. And I'm in like a turtleneck and like jeans that are dirty, and this guy here is like, he's suited up, he's ready to kill the town.
It's funny you say that because I drive an automated garbage truck.
Nice.
So quite often during the week, I look very underdressed, so to speak. Right?
Well, with a job like that, you kind of what you're wearing primarily for jobs like that is like armor, for lack of a better term, because you know in scooping stuff up and picking stuff up, you're gonna get who knows what the heck you're gonna get with garbage. So you're just gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna wear something that if it hits me, it's probably not getting through, and if it's getting through, I probably should call somebody, kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. And so of course on the weekend when I'm not at that, I wanna dress to where I want to be, not where I'm at, kind of thing. So I dress a little more upscale.
So you project to where you want to be in the future.
Absolutely, yeah. So if I was dressed like this all the time, I'd probably dress more casual in my off time.
Yeah, actually, it's weird because when I do suit up, people treat me like I'm in this position of authority for some reason.
Well, and I think part of it is people do judge, that initial reaction. And of course, when we're dressed to the best of our ability, people will think highly of us. They'll think better of us for whatever reason that is. I know I do it too, And,
well, we all do it to some degree. So, I'm aware of it. Like I said, right now I'm deliberately dressing down because very soon I'm going to be having to look civilized again for other pursuits. So, and I've been in my creative space for the time being. So it's like when you are at home and you pretty much have a pants optional workspace, you don't really feel the need to try to impress too many people at that moment in time. Now I'm coming to that point where I'm going to have to try to impress people again, and that's coming.
Yeah, and impressing people, that's never really a good thing either, right? Because people will take you or leave you.
Oh, it's true. But the thing is, I worked for an author, and one of the things I initially dismissed it, but there is merit to it. Presentation is important, right? Yes. It is part of the deal. Now, it can't be your whole deal. Now, if it's your whole deal, I have found that people that have so much emphasis on presentation tend to fail miserably when it comes to anything of substance. So
that's true.
Yeah, that's the right. You have to have a balance between, okay, look, I should not scare you upon first sight, but I gotta also show that I'm capable too. And they will be drawn to you because of your presentation, but they will stay with you because of your product or your delivery.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's a balancing act to that. So, So we should talk about your other job, not your day job, but your
my passion.
Your passion. So for the audience, what is your passion?
My passion is really helping people transform their lives. And for me, connecting with this energy, some will call it the universe, some call it even God. I've wanted to do that since I was a kid. I have found myself in the presence of a white light, and it just felt amazing. And at times, I was tapped into this knowingness There was no needing to figure things out. I knew things, and I couldn't explain how I knew it, but I just knew it. And a lot of times when I find myself in that state, I can't even put the words, the knowledge I have.
Clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. And not needing to explain it to anybody is also great too, because you just feel this knowingness that things are going to work out.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to bring that to my clients, and I had been watching people channel, and I was really intrigued by that, because I thought, if we can find a way to do that in an individual, not just the channeler, I wanted to figure out how to do that. And it was actually on a cruise with Esther Hicks, who channels her higher self, which is called Abraham, that I found the technique of past life regression that I used to bridge people to their higher self. And that to me was very intriguing, because I really felt that we had all of our answers. I remember a time when I was a child when I decided I wasn't going to school that day. And however long it took my mom to come in to wake me up, of course I was already awake, I had made myself sick. And she's like, "You're not going to school today." She took one look at me, and then I believe she even came in and took my temperature, and I was running a fever. So I remember her leaving the room and me kind of smiling and thinking, wow, if I can make myself sick. Actually I was just kind of impressed that I had made myself sick, but then I came to the realization I made myself sick. Mm-hmm. And it was like, so I've always known as, like at my young age, that we can make ourselves sick. Well, why couldn't we heal ourselves?
You have to be ready to heal yourself. The biblical concept, Jesus would always go and ask people, do you wish to be healed? The catch to that is, most people don't understand, why would he ask that question? Mm-hmm. Right? But the answer is, we all carry things with us, all of us. And at some point, we have to come to that realization that we need to let it go. At some point, what we carry can poison us. And what happens there is, until it hits a certain point, we'll cling to it because it's familiar, because it's we know it's there. Mm-hmm. But there comes a point in all our lives where we have to grow or we have to regress. And in order to grow, you have to let some of those things go. Healing, I have found with me personally, is more about figuring out who you are personally, where you kind of want to go, and the willingness to do what is necessary to get those things. And you're smiling at me on that.
Well, you've got it, because really we can't be healed when we're not wanting to be healed. Mm-hmm. And even Jesus couldn't heal, and of course that was receiving permission from a person to be healed. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we also have to give permission to be healed.
Yes.
And that's kind of what the sessions are about, is people giving permission to this energy to show up in their lives. And what I found in a lot of what the law of attraction people are teaching is they forget that side of it. Because so ask and it is given. Well, ask and give permission to receive it.
Yes.
And then it will be given.
Absolutely. We have to be ready for things in our lives. If we're not, it will either overwhelm us, we'll resent it, or we'll run. Like it's one of those three things. If you resent it, you should walk away. But again, the biggest thing in this day and age, the biggest thing a lot of people have to overcome are fear and familiarity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fear because change is scary. For most people have to understand, like, if you really want to be healed in the sense of like real healing, you have to be willing to change. There's no ifs, there's no ands, there's no buts. If you're saying, I wish to be healed, well, you can't do what you did before to get you to this point. You have to make conscious changes. If you don't, it doesn't matter what you do to that person, you're going to go back to this state at some point. Only now it's going to be even harder to walk away from this. And that's like, so that's where the familiarity comes into play.
It's comfortable.
It is. Comfort is easy.
That's why some of us too, we learn and we learn and we learn.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your audience can relate to this, that when we're learning and learning, it's easy. But now take that wisdom and implement it. That's true wisdom.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's redefine that slightly. Learning is knowledge.
Yes, wisdom is implementing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's learning is knowledge. Like, and it's easy. Like, learning is great. You can't stop learning. If you do, you're in a point in your life where you're done.
Some will call it entropy. Basically, a state of rot, decay.
Death is stillness. That's what death is. It's stillness, and you can't stay still. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. You have to constantly change.
Well, and you touched on it. Fear is the biggest hindrance. Because yes, we get comfortable, but comfort isn't growth. Comfort is a state of decay. And in order for us to grow, we have to face the unknown. And so I think every fear is really a fear of the unknown, whether it's, a fear of heights, a fear of spiders. It's because you don't have an intimate relationship with that fear. And so once you can identify what that fear is, then you can have an intimate relationship with it, and it will actually become one of your greatest advocators of growth.
Absolutely. Fear can be fear's a hell of a rush if you use it right. Because, like, public speaking, common fear most people have. It's terrifying. And even people that do it, they feel that fear. They just use it.
Yes. It's kind of a rush.
Yeah, no, it really is. I'm going to be doing a presentation. I did a presentation at One Words Collide, which is the writing convention there. So I decided that I was going to have fun with my presentation. So what I did was I did a thing about podcasting. So I made a good chunk of my guests read from Fox and Socks by Dr. Seuss, just to show that anything can be fun, even the stuff that terrifies you. Maybe especially the stuff that terrifies you, because fear is not necessarily a bad thing. Fear's and a good advisor is like, if you do this way, it's awareness of a potential consequence. And if you use fear in that regard, it's actually quite healthy.
And I used to think that we could get over our fears. And yeah, you can, but that's being comfortable and that's being safe. And there's no growth in being safe with no fear. So what I found is changing our relationship with fear. Creating celebrations after you've gone through a fear. And then you start to focus on the celebrations of the fears that come up in the future. And that will pull you to pull through them. So you start to change your relationship with fear and call it excitement, And when you can reframe it as excitement, it's always going to be there. And it's kind of that rush you were talking about earlier. It's a rush when you can see the outcome you're going to create.
Although sometimes, so in my case, I made the decision that after so many years it's time to fix my teeth. When I made that decision, I got really angry. Now, for me, it has more to do with how I lost it than the decision to fix it itself. It wasn't a fully rational thing. And there was a part of me that was really terrified to go in and kind of see what was going on and what I'm going to have to do to take care of it. I'm not sure there's a way. I'm not sure there's a way to make that exciting. But what I did was, for me, when I went to deal with it, I'm like, okay, it's not about where I am now. It's about where I want to be later. Like I said, I think there's this. What we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, sounds very simple. It's not easy, and there's a difference between simplicity and ease. If it was easy, it wouldn't be worth doing. All right.
It's true.
Yeah. Right. So, what you need to do, is like what I have found personally with anything I've been truly terrified of. You have to look at where it's going to lead you. You gotta let yourself feel the fear, because honestly, if you're trying to deny it, that's a bad.
Well, you end up pulling away from it, and you keep pulling back into that comfort zone that everybody talks about, and comfort zones really keep you from facing that fear. And that's that relationship that I'm talking about having with your fear. Is it can be uncomfortable, but your growth is on the other side of that fear, no matter what your fear is. And kind of how I relate it to past life regression is I've had so many clients, they've gone to counseling, they've been looking for their fear in this life, whether it's a fear of the water, a fear of death, a fear of being persecuted. And what I've noticed is that when we go and we see the past life, we have an intimate relationship with that fear, and we can see it from a third person, and we can be conscious of where it came from. whether it's the past life or even this life, for example. But once we know where it came from, we can make peace with it. And we can forgive whoever we need to forgive, quite often is ourselves. Because imagine that we actually set things up that are fearful and traumatic so that we could learn from them. Mm-hmm. That gives it a whole nother perspective. And so why would somebody cause us abuse, whether it's sexual, mental, physical? Well, the question I would ask is what did you learn from it and how did you grow? And maybe when you're in it, you won't see it, but over time you'll be able to look at that and be able to possibly see the growth and the expansion in it.
That one's a difficult one.
It is. But it's the work we're here to do.
Yeah.
Because no matter what the cards you were dealt, if you can't move back to love, you're going to be stuck in fear the rest of your life.
That's true. That is very true. So, okay, so I'm gonna change it just slightly. What are you doing right now that makes you uncomfortable?
What am I doing? Well, really sharing my beliefs with people, because my beliefs are leading edge. Not too many people are talking about the fact that we can create our lives and that we can clear up our karma, and that possibly we are a soul that reincarnates over and over again and is growing and learning and is a small part of God, experiencing God, to bring back that information to God, so to speak. And that is scary for me, because there's not too many people talking about this kind of stuff on the leading edge, that perhaps we need to make a better life now so when we come back, we continue that growth. So that's very uncomfortable for me.
I see. So, going back to, I don't fully subscribe to karma. Now, here's why. I do believe there's reciprocity for everything you do. It's not that I don't believe that, but the one thing I've learned, and it's actually a blessing in disguise, the world isn't perfect. Nobody gets exactly what they deserve. That's actually a good thing. Most of us, at some point, do things in our lives that we probably shouldn't have done, and in a fair and just world, there'd be some serious consequences to that. Sometimes we get to walk away scot-free, and sometimes again, it's one of those things where I go, I don't feel like I believe again, it's not quite the same thing, or maybe it is the same thing, I'm just wording it differently. I've always looked at I looked at the world as unfair as a good thing, right? And I've looked at the fact that it's not, karma doesn't always translate, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, I think we're releasing karma.
Yeah.
So it would give that perception that we're no longer having karma, but we're also no longer creating it. Because you think about it, we have 7.6 billion people on the planet, give or take. And if we were creating karma the way that when we look back in history, it'd be a pretty devilish place we're living. Now, of course, if you're watching the news, it looks like that. But you got to think, what if the news actually started to share all the positive things going on in the world? It would look like a totally different planet.
Well, here's the thing. The news makes, again, this goes back to fear. The news's biggest form of profit is fear. People are glued and they watch and they get horrified. They stay inside before they watch it. They
buy the products they're selling.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a never-ending cycle. My grandmother, she listened to this, bless her heart. I gave up watching TV years ago. The only thing I still watch from time to time is I will do sports podcasts, because they're mindless when I'm working. So I mean, it's nothing that I care about too seriously. And so, but besides that, I don't watch any TV outside of maybe the occasional binging of a show when my brain needs a break. But I find I don't miss it. Right? It's just one of those things. It's a window to the world, but it's not the only window to the world.
It might not be a window that serves you either in feeling good about this place, because one thing I find is how you see the world is how it shows up.
Yep.
So if you're watching the news and it's evil and there's all kinds of negative things going on, well, as soon as you step out your front door, that's the first thing that catches your eye. And when we start to see the world as being a loving, caring place and a beautiful place, and you look for the beauty in everything, and you realize that the world really mirrors how you show up. So how do you want to show up in the world?
I just said this in the last thing I did. In the end, we all get what we want. Whether we realize it or not, we get exactly what we want. Our decisions dictate where we're going, even though we may not consciously make those decisions. We go exactly where we want to go, and there is no, and how we view the world dictates the path we walk.
Well, and I would touch on where you said consciously, because I really think fear is unconscious, not subconscious, not below our ability to become conscious of it, unconscious. So wherever you hear the words subconscious, reframe it as unconscious, because a lot of times professionals out there want to teach that it's below your ability to become aware of it. And here's the fact, and you know this, that when you become aware of your fears, you can step through them, work through them, release them. But that's our work, is to become conscious. And that's part of the awakening everybody talks about, is really being conscious of your life, because we'll go years through these patterns where we get up, go to work, do a job, a menial job, come back, and we're just not fulfilled because we're stuck in the pattern of life. But when you start to wake up to how you really feel and check into how that job makes you feel or that relationship makes you feel, you start to realize that putting how you feel first is your work.
Yes.
And that's how you transform your life, is by checking into every area of your life of how you feel.
Yep. Well, basically what we're getting to at the end of the day, what you're trying to teach people ultimately is to understand themselves.
Absolutely. Because so many times, like especially in relationships, we want to blame the other person, when really there only takes one person in a relationship to actually create a 10 relationship, if we want to scale it from 1 to 10. And if we're putting the blame on the other person, we're never going to get to a 10.
No.
Because we got to own our own part in that relationship, however that is.
Oh, absolutely. And it's about what they want, what you want, and does it actually jive? And if it doesn't matter like what the feelings are, what the intentions are, it's just not meant to be. And you got to, and that's a pill to swallow, definitely sometimes. But it's necessary.
I think sometimes too we want to change people.
Oh, absolutely.
And so when we want to change something, we're not actually happy with just the way it is. And
the scary thing about changing people, though, is often if you do succeed, you leave them anyway, because you realize what you wanted wasn't that, right? And that's a very dangerous line. Like you have to, when it comes to other people, you have to accept them for who they are. That's it. No more, no less. You don't have to agree with everything. You don't have to like them sometimes. In fact, it's probably healthy that you don't like everybody to some degree.
And it's interesting you say that, because I think, in a relationship, a loving, caring relationship, there are going to be arguments. And if there isn't arguments, then it's probably not that loving and probably not that caring, because you're never really pushing somebody's boundaries.
Yeah.
And to push somebody's boundaries, there is going to be conflict.
Oh, absolutely.
And without conflict, there is no real relationship. So I think sometimes we like to think that relationships are comfortable, and it should be comfortable. But to me, in my experience, even with my own relationships, I find they're not always comfortable. And that's okay.
Yeah. No. Like I said, sometimes I've told my parents off, both of them, right? But and they've told me off, right? And that's healthy. And when we get it out, it's done. We move on. And that's an important part of what we do. Again, it's all about understanding yourself. Even with relationships, you have to understand where you sit. You have to try to understand them too.
Absolutely. It's never always about you. That's why it takes one person to change a relationship, and that's how you are interacting in that relationship. And one thing I've come to realize is we all have different personality traits, and we have to learn how to interact with those different personality traits. Some people want to control a situation. Well, to try and control a situation with the controller in the situation, then you have two controllers, and you're never going to see the light of day when it comes to that.
Yeah. Well, no, it's you gotta figure out what works and what. I mean, that's part of the relationship thing. Like understanding what your partner needs is very important. Like, do they need space? Do they need comfort? And the thing is, and sometimes like in a relationship, there are things you need and there are things your partner needs that are very, very different, and sometimes very alien to you, right? No, because again, it's not something you necessarily need yourself, but they need that. and you have to, and again, it's being open and willing to
Well, you touched on it there. It's we share love the way we want love, but that might not be the way they want it, you know, and that's sometimes we need to ask, how do you want love? How do you, receive love?
Yeah.
And that's a conversation that's uncomfortable for most people.
Well, yeah, but it's a necessary one because first off, I mean, this is it. I mean, I try I haven't always succeeded, but in my relationship history, I try, if it doesn't work out, to at least walk away on a friendly basis.
Absolutely.
Right? It doesn't always work that way, but you try, right? But the thing is, right, you got to understand what they need and what you're willing to do. Mm-hmm. And if there's a difference, then you need to walk away. If you walk, again, it might suck right then and there, but you might be able to preserve something later if you do that, right? And that's the thing, right? You can't just let your own feelings, your own wants, like, you gotta know what they are, but you also gotta know, like, what you can do. Some people, like there are just certain. One friend of mine, I know the thought of dating her would be cool, except for the fact that I know that the way she handles stress, I can't deal with it. I can't do it, right? And it's no knock on her, right? It's not. It's really just that this is just something where, with me personally, that I am not capable of dealing with it that way. So we shouldn't date, but we can be good friends.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's fine, but again, it's everybody, I think, at some point, again, it just goes back to the very beginning. You got to understand yourself, who you are, and where you're going.
I think in every relationship there's going to be certain things that bug us about that person.
Absolutely.
And I think we got to focus on the things that we love about that person, that got us interested in that person to begin with, which is kind of the honeymoon stage. That's where we're at when we're just starting out. We're in that honeymoon stage, and everything they do is just so loving and caring, and then all of a sudden there's that one thing, and then that seems to be our focus. And once that becomes our focus, then there's 2 things and 3 things, and now we're actually starting to focus on the wrong side of the coin, so to speak. And I think that's relationships in general, and it's going back to, well, what did I love about them in the beginning?
Yep.
And going back to that each and every day.
But the other thing, though, the other challenge sometimes is things, your situations change too, and that's a big. That can be a really big adjustment. Like, for example, let's just say, for sake of argument, you get a job, then now you're not home so much. Yeah. And that's a really hard, and this is a fair thing. That's a hard one for couples to deal with, because if you don't see each other very much, right, it takes a certain resolve in both partners to make that work.
And that's where I think communication be very important in that particular situation, where you're sharing that, okay, well, I don't see you as much as I used to, and that bugs me.
Yeah.
And, the other person's got to be okay with, well, what can we do differently? How can we spend more quality time together? Maybe not as much time, but maybe the quality can go up. But keeping that communication going is huge.
Oh, it's huge. Like I said, but that's where I'm saying, you have to, that's a really hard one. Like, things change in your life as time goes on, and
that's where we have to keep the communication open.
Yeah.
And share that, hey, you used to be here more often, and I didn't mind that. Now that you're not here, I'm spending more time with these kids, and sometimes I need a break from the kids too. So there's that side of the coin as well. Like, there's that's communication is relationship. I really think you could transfer communication in the place of relationship, because without communication you don't have a relationship.
No, you have nothing. Like, you don't, and that can be, and that when you stop talking, it's over. Whether you realize it or not, you might still go through the motions for a while, but it's over.
I think part of the reason we stop talking is because we know it's going to be an awkward conversation. We know it's going to be uncomfortable. So being quiet, being silent is more comfortable. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is that to be in a relationship is uncomfortable, ongoing.
Yeah.
That is a relationship. That's life.
Oh, yeah.
That's growth, that's expansion. And so learn to be uncomfortable, and you will start to have an amazing life.
Absolutely. No, uncomfort on some level, actually any level,
Mhm.
is somewhat encouraged. So, I think we have a decent interview here. So, how can people find you?
Well, you can go to www.jameskerouac.com, and Kerouac is spelled Kirouac. And just contact me through my contact me page. That's probably the best way.
Fair enough. No Twitter or Instagram or anything like that?
No, I'm on Facebook. You can find me on my personal page, James Kerouac, through my profile, and Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique Calgary is my fan page.
Actually, I'll end this. So, quantum healing, hypnosis. Is there a difference between that and the standard, or is this like a branding thing?
Well, I think it's because of the big changes that can take place. Quantum is this idea that we can make big changes, and we can't explain it. And that's the fun part of it. We know that there's an energy that works with us, through us, and nobody has an explanation. And that's the quantum. Science talks about it. And science is starting to sound very much like a spiritual person. It's in and out of form. It changes shape. It's always was and always will be. And that's kind of the spirituality of it, is that it always is and always will be, and we can't even explain it. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's the unknown. Get used to the unknown. So that's what I love about the name Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. Now, that wasn't my name. That was my mentor. It used to be her personal name, and then they made it Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Very cool. All right. And that was that. A little different this time, but kind of cool. And we had a great little conversation there with James. So it was nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, man. And hope everything's going well with your quantum healing. Yeah, obviously, if you live in Calgary and you want to actually try it, give him a shout. You can find him on Facebook, on Twitter. Do what you if you want to try it. Some people I know it works for them. Cool. All right. Happy New Year, everybody. This is me. I'm officially on vacation. I am 4 days away from going to Mexico. I got some last minute things to take care of, but all in all, I'm ready. Yeah. I want to take a quick minute here, and like I said, I'm going to do a longer thing when I get to next episode. I'm going to say my formal goodbyes on my trip and everything like that at the end of the next episode. But for this one, I just wanted to say I got a lot of unexpected support on my GoFundMe. I would have been happy with $100. I got way more than that, and I really do appreciate it. So to everybody that donated, everybody that shared it, thank you very, very much. It's going to go, like I said, I got my appointment for January 11th, and we'll see what comes from it. I don't know if I have enough for a good start. I don't know if I don't think I'm going to be able to finish it in one go, which is fine. It doesn't need to be finished in one go, but it will be a step forward for sure. And I appreciate everybody that helped out on that. All right, that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. Yeah, if you want us. We'll be back on a regular schedule in February, and this will be all normal again and stuff like that. But if you are listening to this, what I'm wondering is, what are your favorite episodes? I'm going to ask this for the next 3, because what I'm going to do as a little bonus while I'm gone is I'm going to post a bunch of classic episodes on top of the current stuff. So if you want to listen to some really, really good podcast conversations, by all means, let me know which ones you'd like to hear. I would happily put them up. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Stay inspired out there. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, or don't get caught. All right? All right.
Josh.